Hi, this is Mike. We're here at Common Good today, and I'm here to talk to you about how to taste hard liquor. I think today we'll talk about a couple things that I think of when they ask me about this. Number one is kind of how to pick what you're gonna drink, and then depending on what you've picked, how should you approach it? How should you enjoy it? We rarely go and then enjoy a very specific isolated element of something that's usually part of a greater whole. Like you would never go to a restaurant and be like, oh man, I love this noodle dish they do, or I love this fried rice, and then ask the chef, be like, ooh, could I just get a little bit of the rice by itself? Because typically the whole point is to enjoy the composed whole. But where cocktails are unique is that cocktails can become a gateway for you to enjoy a specific element, i.e., a base spirit or a liqueur, a digestif, an aperitivo on its own. With cocktails, you're using these composed elements and then doing a second layer of creation on top of it. So you can take some of these elements and enjoy them on their own. So today we're gonna talk about some base spirits that I love and how maybe to enjoy them in ways that are unique or off the beaten path from what we're accustomed to. I'll start with an easy one that I think most people already think of when they think of drinking something neat or on the rocks or by itself, and that's whiskey. So this is an example I picked out, but the reason why I picked this one, it's Wild Turkey Rare Breed barrel proof. And what that means is that when you see barrel proof or cask strength, what that means is they barreled it to age it at a certain proof, and then instead of cutting it with water to bring down the alcohol content, the alcohol percentage, they just bottle it straight. They don't add any water. So that means you're gonna get a bourbon that's gonna be higher proof, and the word I would use to describe it is hot. Not temperature-wise or spicy-wise, but it's hot in that it has that alcohol burn. As you drink it, you'll feel it in your chest a little bit. A lot of the scotches or bourbons, they might be sold at barrel proof, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person who made it intended you to drink it that way. A lot of times there's an expectation that maybe you're gonna drink it, you're gonna add a couple drops of water, you're gonna add an ice cube, and as that alcohol content goes down, that spirit will start to open up and express itself more, because that high alcohol content kind of traps in some of the aromatics and some of the other things. So number one, drink it however you like. Don't feel like you have to drink it neat. If you want to, you can. And then how to taste it. A lot of people, I'm not gonna do it because it's a bad lesson, but a lot of times people will get a high proof bourbon and they'll go to smell it and they'll just bury their nose in it and do one of these. That's a bad lesson. You're gonna burn out your nose. The alcohol content is high, not like permanently, but you're not really gonna be able to taste or enjoy the bourbon because your olfactory is just gonna get shot. So what you wanna do is like, you maybe smell it like this, draw it in through your mouth. It's not wine. You're not gonna wanna bury your nose in it. Maybe enjoy a little sip and then decide for yourself, do you wanna continue enjoying it neat? This one, even though it's barrel proof, I might drink this one neat. Or, maybe you decide to do a couple drops of water, or in this case, I'm just gonna pour the rocks in. And I always me personally, I like to drink it on the rocks if it's a higher proof bourbon, because right as the ice goes in, it's still gonna be at that high proof. But as the ice melts, you'll see it proof down and down and down. And you can taste the whiskey as the ice melts, and you can see how the whiskey shifts and changes over time, how it opens up. It smells different, it tastes different. You're gonna be able to notice different elements in the spirit. And I think that to me is always a fun way to enjoy it, to kind of go through that journey with it. So that's bourbon. Let's move on to another one. This next category we're gonna talk about is rum, which I think is a category a lot of people aren't super familiar with. Maybe you've had, I think the most common ones people have been exposed to would be like a Captain Morgan spiced rum. Spiced rums like that typically are the spicing is a way for them to cover up a poor distillate, a poor rum. So they'll add all these secondary flavors to it to cover over the fact that what you're drinking is not really that great. But rum is a category that's very diverse, very interesting, and cocktails can become a gateway for you to discover it and then discover the different styles of rum that you like. So 2 styles. So the lesson with the rums we're going to talk about today is don't judge a book by a cover. Don't judge a book by the experience that you've had. because maybe you had one experience with a category, but a lot of them, those categories contain a lot of diversity, and there's probably something in there that you actually would love. So today we're gonna talk about two rums that are a little bit off the beaten path from what we talked about earlier, the ones most people are familiar with. The first one is Nissan Élevé Sous Bois, which is a rum agricole. Rum can be split into two, I mean, you could divide the rum world a lot of different ways, but one easy designation would be rum agricole versus rum industrial. Rum agricoles are specific in that instead of using molasses as what you're fermenting, you're using fresh pressed sugarcane. These rums typically have like a very light, grassy, floral, fresh taste to them, not that vanilla extract, sugary. Élevé Sous Bois means raised under wood. They typically come from Martinique, which is a French colony. And this is the style of rum that they produce there. Élevé Sous Bois, raised under wood, means it's barrel aged. And so this one's a little bit milder. The aging, barrel aging, calms it down a little bit. Some of those like really bright floral things are calmed down a little bit. This is absolutely one of my favorite rums. Very unique flavor profile. Nothing else in the world tastes like this. The other one we'll point out today, and this is in a whole world of incredible rums out there, but this is another standby for me. This is Smith & Cross Navy Strength Jamaican rum. Jamaican rums are really great because they, when they go to ferment and they go to distill, they are going to do a very rough cut. They're not necessarily looking for just what the heart of the run. They're letting in a little bit of the tails, a little bit of the heads. And the reason why they're doing that is they want all those wild esters from that really wild fermentation, funky fermentation they're doing to carry through the distillation process into the finished product. But this rum, it's gonna give you like a really great molasses, rich, dark taste that you're not maybe accustomed to in a rum. This rum definitely does not need to be spiced. It's already got so much flavor packed into it. You'll get a little bit of baking spice, you get a little bit of brown sugar, molasses. So one way to think about spirits is maybe you discover something like a bourbon. A lot of people already know if they love bourbon, but maybe you discover a bourbon in a cocktail and then you want to explore that category, neater on the rocks, same with rum. And the next one that I think, this is especially a category where I think people discover through the lens of cocktails, because it's something, I don't know a lot of people who are gonna walk into a bar who are unfamiliar with this and just see this up on a shelf and order it. A lot of people are not gonna know what this is. Same with the Casoni here. Maybe you don't know what an aperitivo is. We don't necessarily have a cultural expectation of what that tastes like. These are great categories to dive into. Amaro literally is just the Italian word for bitter. They are digestifs, which means they're typically designed to be enjoyed after dinner. And then aperitivos are not always, but they're typically red color like this, and they're designed to be enjoyed before dinner. I picked these out because this is a different way to think about spirits. I think we think about spirits in terms of flavor profile. It's kind of how we distinguish them. We also delineate based on like what it's made out of. Whiskeys are made out of corn and wheat and rye. Rums are made out of sugar. The Italians don't necessarily think that way. Sometimes they do. But in this case, they think about time of day and experience. Amari, digestifs, are great for after dinner. Aperitifs are great before dinner. They don't necessarily all have the same flavor profile, but they are all made with that consideration, that time of day, that rhythm of life. So we'll start before dinner with aperitivo. This is Casoni 1814. And this one's a little different than maybe if you're familiar with Campari, I think is like the Levi, the Coca-Cola of aperitivos, the one everyone's familiar with. This one, not as bitter. This one's a lot sweeter. You just get a slight hint of bitterness that's gonna clean off your palate. That's gonna prepare you to enjoy a meal. The next one, Nardini Amaro Bassano, one of my favorite Amari on the planet. Again, Amaro are great digestif. After dinner, you're looking for something to sip on, help settle your stomach. Amaro's perfect for that. It's what it's made for. It goes great in a cocktail, but if you're gonna enjoy it neat, It's kind of handy to have this like easy guide of, if it's before dinner, go with an aperitif. It's after dinner, go with a digestif like an Amaro. Amaros will typically just give you such a great herbaceous, earthy. They're rich enough that they kind of hang on your palate. They're complex enough that you just want to sit and sip it and enjoy it, because you're going to get different notes with each sip. Sometimes if you're not wondering what should I drink, it's helpful to think about what time of day is it? What am I about to do? And then things like digestif and aperitif can kind of present themselves. Cool. Lastly, we're going to talk about shochu, which is one of my favorite categories. This is Kurodashi Ginshu. This is a sweet potato shochu. Over here, we have the Kintaro roasted barley shochu. Barley is the most common base ingredient for a shochu. This one, however, is unique in that they heavily roast all the barley that goes into it. Smell it, you get that roasted barley just pops. Shochu's cool because they're not married to one ingredient as the base. They can be made from everything from rice to sugarcane to barley, but they are very soft, they're very delicate. This is great if you're a vodka drinker, if you're like, I like something clean, I'm scared of something that's gonna just beat me over the head. These are great because they're extremely high quality. They're made with a lot of care, a lot of intention. They're not distilled into oblivion the way a lot of vodka is to neutrality. These are distilled in a very purposeful way so that the really great flavor from their base ingredient shines through in the finished product. Even though you might be scared of this bottle, if you get a cocktail here, like maybe the Mr. Seaweeds, or we're using sweet potato shochu and the Danny Glover Rides a T-Rex. Maybe you try one of these cocktails and you say, man, I really like this. What was the base on that? I'm unfit. I've never had shochu. Don't be afraid to just order a shot, order a taste, order a 2-ounce pour, because they're very, very enjoyable on their own.